Hello and welcome to another Big Finish review. In this Big Finish review I'll be looking at, continuing my look at the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 5. And this time we'll be looking at Jonathan Morris's sort of 4-part story told across 2 CDs, because that's how Big Finish like to work it, because they like to get more money out of us. But it's sort of been a thing they've done since the Paul McGann Adventures really. And it is of course the Paradox Planet Marches release. I'm a bit behind on the 4th Doctor Adventures, because I normally review the previous story before the next one comes out, but the Legacy of Death's out and it's sort of becoming the time where the Gallery of Ghouls will be out, so I'm definitely behind, so I need to get on to reviewing this sort of 4-part story, and then hopefully I'll be back on track before the Gallery of Ghouls comes out. So yeah, let's look how this story is presented, then we're going to my actual thoughts on this release. So for the cover art we have the 4th Doctor there, Romana 2, and we have a time tank and some sort of weird alien birds. I think what I like about this cover is if you more closely you go, you can see the sort of a detail like the weird sort of soldiers there, and we can see the TARDIS in the sort of woodland sort of area. Obviously you've got the Tom Baker banner there, the spine, and the back, so do feel free to pause to know what this story is about. So now on to the booklet. So if we open it up, we have the next instalment, which is obviously the Legacy of Death, advertising for Doctor Who magazine and production credits, and the reversible cover, which I've got to say the recent 4th Doctor ones have managed to blend in the 4th Doctor logo rather well, so well done Big Finish. And the disc art is exactly the same as the cover. So what do I think of the Paradox Planet? So far the 4th Doctor Adventures Series 5 have been pretty solid in terms of story and capturing the era. Now it's Jonathan Morris's turn, but this time creating a 4-part story spread across 2 CDs. How does this first instalment do? I would say it stands up fairly well, with Morris having this really interesting concept, a planet at war with its past. Now that idea just seems a wacky Douglas Adams idea. Now this idea leads to some fantastic world building, with us seeing how the planet and the society have changed, with Era 14 being this sort of tranquil and quite picturesque planet which we see on the cover, to 1,000 years later in the future, where everything is underground, desolate and quite apocalyptic in terms of their society. And I like how sort of Morris has sort of linked it with our society, with the way pollution's going, and you know, we're too busy striving forward with technology and not looking at the bigger picture, which this story sort of does sort of mimic and sort of mirror, going, look, this is what we could become with us just looking at the latest technology and trying to make ourselves better as a society and making us more advanced without looking at the whole ecology of the planet. So I think that's a great idea by Morris, along with his wacky idea of a planet at war with itself. Right then, onto characters. I've got to start with the main man himself, Tom Baker. You can tell Tom is having an absolute ball while doing these recent adventures. You know, he just gets some cracking moments with him just bumbling around and aimlessly wandering. The first scene we have the Doctor and you see him trying to play the violin, when it turns out the book he's learning from is for an octopoid life form, and Romana just shoots him down, and that just is a great scene between the Doctor and Romana, and just has, you know, the Doctor and Romana in this story, what bits they're in, they just have some great chemistry between them. Now the Doctor also has some great scenes with Canine, with him just bickering at Canine and the Doctor telling Canine to sit. You can tell Tom is just being the fool in this, with him just saying he'd rather have a picnic in Era 14 than where he is now on the sort of desolate, barren planet. And he gets this kind of weird scene where he's just getting searched and he just starts laughing, and it's just quite a funny moment, and you can tell that Tom is just loving every moment of this story, just because he gets some great moments between, you know, the 2 other supporting characters, you know, Romana and Canine. I just absolutely love Tom in this, really. Now on to Romana, played by Lala Ward. Oh, Romana. Oh, yes. Yes, Romana, played by Lala Ward, as I've just said. This is a pretty strong outing for Romana too, with her being sassy, especially when answering questions, and dare I say, Romana is more of a Doctor character than the Doctor, with Romana basically getting the Doctor out of trouble, because the Doctor just finds himself in loads of trouble in this story, wherever he just goes in this story. My favourite Romana moment in this story, and it's a very strong moment for Romana too in this story, is her speech about the consequences of this planet, you know, of their actions. And you can feel the power and emotion in Lala's performance. And just Romana really does lead this story in some ways. And Romana is just all round sort of fearless and just being sassy to death. Oh, absolutely lovely. Gotta love Romana in this. Now on to Canine, played by John Leeson. Oh, little John Leeson. Oh, adorable fella. Canine, he plays a pretty major part in this story as the story progresses, especially towards the climax of the story, with Canine being used effectively throughout this adventure. But my favourite Canine moment in this story is when he loses it. He just loses it because he can't go upstairs and he just gets in a bit of a tiz-was. It's just a great funny moment for Canine. Supporting characters, I will be honest, I think they give a decent performance, but I find none of them really stand out because they just seem quite generic and typical military characters, which to me they just don't stand out. They're just shouty, authoritative sort of characters. I mean, there are some interesting characters thrown in there, especially sort of the Marquina sort of cult thing. They're quite interesting characters, but the rest of the characters are quite generic military characters, as you would expect, with a sort of war story, really. So to conclude on this story, Jonathan Morris has managed to sustain the adventure of laying down multiple plot threads such as the war, the Marquina plotline, Romana's plot thread, and the Doctor's plot thread, and of course the resurrection of the planet. So this part is very much the builder episode, with setting up all these plot threads, which I hope will be expanded on in the Legacy of Death, because it would be an awful shame if they're not. And I definitely do look forward to listening to the Legacy of Death, because I haven't listened to it yet, because I've just got sort of fallen behind with Big Finish, really, because I've been just listening to various other things like Jago and Lightfoot, and you just sort of forget about the Doctor Who stuff, and you're just like, blow me hell, I'm a bit behind on the 4th Doctor stuff, so I better catch up on that, really. So the cliffhanger for this story, the cliffhangers are pretty good, especially part 2's cliffhangers. It definitely does make you want to pick up the Legacy of Death. The 3 leads in this, they are definitely the tour de force in this story, because they literally are the driving, they are the engine of the story. They really do propel the story forward. And I just love Jonathan Morris's imagination, just the whole ideas. It's just got a fantastic concept, and it definitely is in the style of season 17 with the whole wacky Douglas Adams sort of idea, and just the whole idea of time tanks, time travelling tanks. Yeah, doesn't that sound amazing? Oh, brilliant. And the sound design for the time tanks is just superb. And this is just a really quite quirky little release to listen to. So yeah, I better rate this story. So the sort of I've got a few little negatives, such as some scenes do seem a bit unnecessary, and obviously I'm not too keen on some of the supporting characters because they just seem a bit generic, but those are sort of the only negatives really for the story for me. So I'm going to give this story 8 jelly babies out of 10, a pretty solid release still, because the Series 5 looks like it will be one of the best sort of 4th Doctor series out there. It'd be interesting to see if it beats Series 2 for me, because Series 2 is just the best 4th Doctor adventures for me. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you in my next review, whatever that will be. So thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.